7 days from now, you wake up, walk to your bathroom, and check your blood pressure monitor, and the number is lower than it's been in years. Not because you changed your medication, not because you started running marathons at 5 in the morning, because you made 7 specific changes to what goes into your body, changes that work directly on the biological mechanisms your prescription never touches. I'm Dr. Alwin Adewale, and in my 20 years of working with men over 50, I've watched patients go back to their cardiologists and have their medication dosage voluntarily reduced, not because they demanded it, because the numbers gave the doctor no other logical option. Today I'm going to show you exactly what those patients did, but before we get into the 7 foods, I need to tell you something important. Midway through this video, I'm going to reveal 3 things that are almost certainly in your home right now, things that are actively working against every pill you take and every healthy choice you make. If you skip that section, the 7 foods will give you maybe 30% of their potential benefit, so stay with me until the end. What I'm covering in the second half of this video might be the most important health information you've heard in years. Let's start with the biology a doctor probably hasn't explained. Your arteries produce a gas called nitric oxide. Think of it as nature's own vasodilator, a signaling molecule that tells the smooth muscles surrounding your blood vessels to relax and widen. When those walls relax, blood flows through with less resistance and pressure drops. The problem is that after the age of 50, nitric oxide production declines significantly, and most approaches to blood pressure management, including medication, don't address this at the root. The 7 foods I'm about to cover all influence this pathway. Some produce nitric oxide directly, some protect it from being destroyed, and one activates the enzyme that manufactures it from scratch. Let's go through them one by one. Beet juice. Beets contain some of the highest concentrations of dietary nitrates found in any vegetable. When you drink beet juice, those nitrates travel to your mouth where specific bacteria in your tongue convert them into nitrite. That nitrite enters your bloodstream and converts into active nitric oxide. Your arteries literally relax on command. A study published in the journal Hypertension found that drinking 250 milliliters of beet juice daily reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 8 millimeters of mercury within hours of consumption. The practical protocol: each morning drink 250 milliliters of beet juice, roughly 1 small glass. Room temperature is important. Cold beet juice slows the nitrate conversion process in your mouth. If the taste is too strong for you, mix it with a small amount of apple juice. Stick with it for at least 2 weeks before measuring results. Now, beet juice gets almost all of the attention in this category, but the next food actually contains more dietary nitrates per gram, and most people walk right past it at the grocery store. Arugula. The same nitrate pathway that works with beet juice works with arugula, but arugula adds something beets don't have in the same concentration: potassium. Potassium is critical for blood pressure because it signals your kidneys to excrete sodium rather than hold on to it. When sodium accumulates in your body, it pulls water into your bloodstream, increasing the total volume of blood your heart has to push. More volume, more pressure. Potassium is the natural counterbalance to sodium that most people over 50 are chronically deficient in. Add 2 large handfuls of fresh arugula to 1 meal each day. A simple salad with olive oil and lemon works perfectly, and here's the important detail: do not cook it. Heat destroys both the nitrate content and the potassium bioavailability. Raw is the operative word. Moving to the 3rd food, I want to ask you something most people have never thought to ask their cardiologist. What if there was a tea that worked through the exact same biological mechanism as a class of prescription blood pressure medications? Not an approximation, not a vague similarity, the same mechanism there is, and it grows as a flower. Hibiscus tea contains compounds called anthocyanins and organic acids that inhibit an enzyme called angiotensin-converting enzyme ACE. ACE inhibitors are one of the most prescribed classes of blood pressure medications in the world. They work by preventing the production of angiotensin II, a hormone that constricts blood vessels. Hibiscus does the same thing naturally. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Nutrition analyzing data from over 500 patients found that regular hibiscus consumption reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 7.5 of mercury. The protocol: steep 2 teaspoons of dried hibiscus flowers in 240 milliliters of hot water for 8 to 10 minutes. Drink 1 to 2 cups daily. One important caveat: if you are currently taking ACE inhibitor medications, speak with your doctor before adding hibiscus regularly. The combined effect may lower your pressure more than intended. This is not a reason to avoid hibiscus. It's a conversation to have with your doctor, who should know you're using it. The fourth food is one everyone's heard of, but almost everyone uses it wrong, and the mistake is about timing. Raw garlic. When you crush or chop a garlic clove, you trigger a chemical reaction. An enzyme called alliinase converts a compound called allicin into allicin. Allicin is responsible for most of garlic's cardiovascular benefits, but allicin doesn't stop there. Inside your body, it further converts into hydrogen sulfide, and hydrogen sulfide, like nitric oxide, is a gasotransmitter, a signaling gas that tells your blood vessels to relax and dilate. Two vasodilating gases working through separate pathways simultaneously. That's what properly prepared raw garlic delivers. The mistake most people make: they cook the garlic immediately after crushing. Heat destroys the alliinase enzyme within seconds of exposure. No enzyme, no allicin conversion. You get the flavor, you do not get the cardiovascular benefit. The correct protocol: crush or finely mince 1 to 2 cloves of raw garlic, then wait 10 minutes. That waiting period is not optional. It's the chemistry completing itself. After 10 minutes, eat it, mix it into a salad dressing, spread it on avocado, whatever works for your palate. 10 minutes. That single change turns garlic from a flavoring into a therapy. Actually, let me ask you something before we continue. Do you currently eat garlic regularly? And when you prepare it, do you cook it right away or do you wait before using it? Write 1 or 2 words in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many of you have been doing this correctly without knowing why, and how many of you have been losing most of the benefit every single day without realizing it. The fifth food has the most impressive long-term clinical data of anything we'll cover today, and I want to be precise about what the research actually shows. Ground flax seed, a randomized control trial published in the journal Hypertension, followed patients over 6 months. One group added ground flax seed to their daily diet. The other group did not. At the end of 6 months, the flax seed group showed an average reduction in systolic blood pressure of 15 millimeters of mercury, 15 points sustained over 6 months. That is comparable to some first-line antihypertensive medications. The mechanism is not one thing operating. It is several working in parallel. Flax seed provides alpha-linolenic acid and omega-3 fatty acid that reduces arterial inflammation directly. It contains lignans, plant compounds that influence hormonal pathways connected to vascular regulation, and is high in soluble fiber, which improves the gut microbiome in ways that measurably benefit cardiovascular health. The protocol: 2 tablespoons of ground flax seed daily. The word ground is critical. Whole flax seed passes through the digestive system largely intact. Your body cannot access the active compounds without the seed being broken. Added to yogurt, a smoothie, oatmeal. The taste is mild enough that most people don't notice it. The catch: you need 3 to 4 months of consistent use to see the full effect. This is not a quick fix. This is biology working at the cellular level over time. But consider this: 3 months from now is going to arrive whether you start today or not. The sixth food is one I know will raise some eyebrows, and I want to give you the mechanism before the conclusion so the skepticism has somewhere rational to land. Dark chocolate, minimum 85% cacao. Cacao is one of the richest dietary sources of compounds called flavonoids, specifically a subclass called flavanol. Flavanols activate an enzyme called endothelial nitric oxide synthase. That's the enzyme your artery walls use to produce nitric oxide from scratch, not from dietary nitrates, but synthesized internally from the amino acid arginine. So with beet juice and arugula, we're supplying raw materials through the nitrate pathway. With dark chocolate, we're activating the factory that builds nitric oxide through a completely independent route. A meta-analysis of 24 clinical trials found that regular consumption of high flavonoid chocolate produced measurable reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure across multiple populations. The practical protocol: 22-30 grams of dark chocolate per day, minimum 85% cacao. The higher the percentage, the higher the flavanol content and the lower the sugar load. This is not a license to eat an entire bar in one sitting. 22-30 grams, roughly 3 to 4 small squares, is the therapeutic dose. That's the amount the research supports. The 7 food works differently from everything else we've discussed. All 6 previous foods either produce nitric oxide or stimulate its production. This one protects the nitric oxide you're already making from being destroyed before it can do its job. Pomegranate juice. Nitric oxide is an unstable molecule. Free radicals produced by inflammation, oxidative stress, poor sleep, and processed food destroy nitric oxide before it can reach and relax your artery walls. You could be eating beets every morning, arugula at lunch, and dark chocolate in the afternoon and still have low nitric oxide activity if your oxidative stress is high enough to neutralize it faster than you produce it. Pomegranate contains some of the most potent antioxidants found in any food, including a compound called punicalagin that is unique to this fruit. Research shows it is more effective than red wine or green tea at neutralizing the specific class of free radicals that destroy nitric oxide. A clinical trial published in Clinical Nutrition found that pomegranate juice consumption reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 5% while simultaneously increasing measurable nitric oxide levels in the bloodstream. The protocol: 150 milliliters of pure pomegranate juice daily. Look for juice with no added sugar and no concentrate. Both reduce the polyphenol content significantly. Think of pomegranate as the shield that protects all the work the other 6 foods are doing. Now I need your full attention for this next section because for a significant portion of people watching this video, none of what I just described is going to reach its full potential. Not because the foods don't work. The research on every single one of them is solid because of 3 things hiding in your daily routine that are systematically dismantling the biology we just spent 15 minutes building. The first one is going to surprise you: your mouthwash. I know. Stay with me for 30 seconds. Remember the bacteria on your tongue that convert dietary nitrates from beet juice and arugula into nitrite and then into nitric oxide? That process requires specific bacterial species living in your oral microbiome. Antibacterial mouthwash, the kind marketed as killing 99.9% of bacteria, cannot distinguish between harmful bacteria and the beneficial nitrate-reducing bacteria your cardiovascular system depends on. It eliminates both. A study published in Free Radical Biology and Medicine found that using antibacterial mouthwash twice daily reduced nitric oxide bioavailability by 25%. Think about what that means practically. You drink your beet juice every morning. You eat your arugula at lunch. Then you rinse with antibacterial mouthwash and you've just eliminated a quarter of the cardiovascular benefit you were working to create. The solution is not to stop brushing your teeth. Switch to a fluoride-only toothpaste. Use thorough brushing without an antibacterial rinse. If you use mouthwash at all, choose an unantibacterial formula or simply rinse with water after meals. Your oral microbiome is not separate from your cardiovascular system. It is part of it. The second saboteur is what most of you ate this morning: cereal, orange juice, white toast with jam or butter. These foods, refined carbohydrates, cause a rapid spike in blood glucose. Your pancreas responds with a surge of insulin, but insulin has a secondary effect on your kidneys that most people have never been told about. It signals them to retain sodium rather than excrete it. Sodium retention increases blood volume. Blood volume increases the pressure your heart has to generate to push that blood through your arteries. This is a significant reason why blood pressure spikes most sharply between 6 and 10 in the morning. not just because of natural cortisol rhythms, but because of what the majority of people eat for breakfast. The practical change: shift your morning meal toward protein and fat, eggs and avocado, Greek yogurt with walnuts and ground flaxseed, which are now taken anyway, smoked salmon with cucumber. Foods that digest slowly, produce a minimal insulin response, and allow your kidneys to stay in sodium excretion mode through the highest risk hours of the day. This single change, just breakfast, can meaningfully reduce your morning blood pressure peak, which is the peak that carries the highest cardiovascular risk. Before I tell you the third saboteur, let me ask you something directly. What does your current breakfast look like most mornings? Toast and coffee or something different? Leave a comment below. I'm not asking to judge the answer. I'm asking because the pattern I see in those responses tells me a lot about what people need to address first, and I do read these comments. The third saboteur is something that may appear completely unrelated to your blood pressure. Your pain medication, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Ibuprofen, naproxen, aspirin, and high doses are among the most commonly used medications in the world, particularly among people over 50 dealing with joint pain, back pain, or recurring headaches, and they interfere with blood pressure control through two distinct mechanisms. First, NSAIDs inhibit prostaglandins, hormone-like compounds that promote sodium excretion and blood vessel dilation in the kidneys. Block prostaglandins and your kidneys retain water and sodium. Second, NSAIDs partially block the mechanism by which several classes of blood pressure medications, including ACE inhibitors and diuretics, do their primary job. So you may be taking your prescription medication faithfully, eating all 7 of the foods I described, and then taking ibuprofen twice a week for a sore knee, and partially undoing the entire system in a single dose. The alternative worth discussing with your doctor: acetaminophen for pain management when appropriate, as it does not carry the same cardiovascular interaction profile. If you're taking regular NSAIDs for a chronic pain condition, this is not information to act on unilaterally. It is a conversation to have with your doctor at your next appointment, not optional, important. Now let me close the loop I opened at the beginning of this video. Why mornings specifically matter more than any other time of day. Between 6 o'clock and 10 in the morning, there is a natural surge in cortisol and catecholamines, your stress hormones. This produces a predictable and significant spike in blood pressure. Cardiologists call it the morning surge, and statistically more heart attacks and strokes occur in this 4-hour window than at any other comparable period across the entire day. Your morning routine either amplifies that surge or dampens it. The protocol I've described today works in both directions simultaneously. Beet juice and garlic taken in the morning flood your system with vasodilating compounds exactly when your arteries are under the most pressure. The breakfast shift removes the insulin-sodium mechanism that adds additional force to the morning surge, eliminating antibacterial mouthwash, preserves the oral bacteria that convert those morning nitrates into active nitric oxide before your blood pressure peaks. These are not 7 separate tips you can pick and choose from. They form one integrated system designed to address high blood pressure from multiple biological directions at the same time. Your medication manages the downstream result. This protocol addresses the upstream mechanisms your medication was never designed to reach. If this approach makes sense to you, there's a critical second layer worth understanding: the role of specific mineral deficiencies, particularly magnesium, and how they determine whether everything I described today works efficiently or barely works at all. If this video gave you something useful, a like takes 2 seconds and genuinely helps other men who are searching for this information find it. Subscribe if you want the next part of this protocol next week. And as always, review any dietary changes with your doctor, especially if you're managing hypertension with medication or have any underlying conditions. This information is designed to work alongside your medical care, not as a replacement for it. I'll see you in the next one.